Hey guys, welcome back. Today, this video is all inspired by people that have the ability to balance stones. Have you ever gone out to a lake and you see this pile of stones all precariously balanced? Amazing. I've watched videos of people balancing stones. I have no clue how they can do it. I would need a whole lot of glue and stick tape and duct tape and everything else to be able to do what they do. I'm very impressed by those type of people. But I'm thinking, if they can do that with stones, why can't we do some balancing and tricks with food photography and do some creative stacking of food? We're even going to do a little bit of levitation. So if that's what you're into, let's get some creative images going and have fun with some food photography. All right, for this tutorial, I've got a couple of different examples to show you. One, we're going to be playing with some honey glazed donuts and do a bit of a balance and levitation with it. The other one, we have some great blueberry muffins, and let me tell you, they tasted awesome. So we've got a couple of different examples. I got some tips and tricks for you. I am going to show you a couple of things now. These things here, they are really heavy. They're metal. They're the stoppers for wine bottles after you've opened a bottle of wine to put on the table. They're really handy because you can kind of insert it into the food and it helps give that bottom piece of food some weight. So when you're stacking, it's not so prone to tip. I also, if you've seen some of my other videos where I use toothpick skewers and all that other wonderful stuff, have an assortment of different skewers. These can just simply break to the length you need. What I do need to make though is a round disc that has like a little sleeve up that this can slide into and hold securely up. So I've got a bigger base at the bottom, like a flat piece of metal, then the skewer just goes into it. Way less prone to tip, because if you just stand it like this, it'll fall over. So that becomes a challenge within stacking food. So I'll show you some tips and tricks and things that I have, but this is one of the ways that I did for this and it worked out. So let's have a look at the honey glazed donuts first, do a little balance and levitation. Here I just take some painter's tape and I'm wrapping it around the skewer, and I'm wrapping it around where I want to bend and break the skewer because I want to create kind of a 90-degree angle, and the tape just simply stops the skewer from completely breaking off and gives it a little more support so I can create that 90-degree angle, which gives a little bit of a base for the food. Then I just simply take a donut, stick the skewer through, and I've got that little bend underneath which helps give some balance. Here I'm using one of the wine stoppers that I was showing you previously, and I just inserted it into the back of the donut, which helps give that donut a bit of weight, and if it's leaning back, it gives a bit of support. Then you just figure out how you want your donuts to be stacked on it. What angles do you want? Slide it onto the skewer. Now this last donut, I want to leave it a little higher so that I can give a little illusion of it levitating. So that's why we have that gap in between. Now let's take it into Photoshop and I'll show you how we get rid of the stick. Now we have our image in Photoshop, and you can see here we've got the skewer that we want to get rid of. So the first thing we do on the right is come over here, right click, and we duplicate our layer so we always have our original underneath. Now we're just going to hold down the Alt key and the center scroll on my mouse just to zoom in on that stick a bit, and then we need to get rid of this piece of stick first. Up on the left hand side here is all your controls. We want the clone tool. Make your brush a little bigger than the actual skewer. Left click on the top, hold down the shift key and click on the bottom. It will connect and draw a line. It'll do its own little thing, and then boof, look at that, the skewer is gone. Then simply up into the top here, we work with using the tool here, the clone stamp. And you can come in on the left hand side here and use the clone stamp tool. You just simply left click and you can see how I can copy and fill in areas. So if I wanted to really clean this up and make it look as best as possible, I come in and do a little bit of clone work. But you can see we've got all that stick gone. Then it's simply a matter of coming in on this side here and getting this piece gone. Now it's a little trickier because I've got a little area to work in. But I can take over here on the left hand side, so I can clone a bit of this in. So I need to first come down to the bottom right and create just a blank layer. Click on my background copy, then left click here to create the clone tool, and then move to the right, make sure I'm working on layer 1. Then I can come in here and I can just simply clone in and get rid of that skewer piece in the middle. I'm not too worried about where it is on the donut. I just need to fill this piece in here. like so. Now, you can also see that that center piece is a little darker. Come up to the top, come into image, come into adjustments, come into brightness, and then simply bump up your brightness a bit to make it look like it naturally would. That's about right. I'm just doing this real quick and roughly for you. Okay, so now I've got this little piece here to deal with. Come over here, make sure that I'm on my clone tool, come on my background copy, and then just try cloning it. Does that work? Kinda. Can I mess it around a bit? Yeah, I can come in now with my clone tool a little smaller and work on that background copy and clean this in a bit more to make that look a little better than it was. So you can see there. Now when I back this back out, let me just, on the right hand side here, right click, merge down. Now these two layers combined, and you can see how the skewer is now gone. So I can now take this top layer and duplicate that again. So now I've got two backgrounds. Because what we want to do is we want some motion. We don't want that just suspended in the air. We want some motion. So we need to come into here. We need to come to filter, blur, motion blur. And then you can see we get this little pop-up box come up. Now you can see our angle. So I need to change the angle because we want the blur at 90 degrees. So it's straight up and down. You can see we've got some blurring there, and we can increase the amount of blurring that you get. I think around the 48, 49, I think looks about the best. So there we go. I've got some blur happening on the donuts. It's affecting the whole photo, which is fine. Now, we want to mask off this area. Bottom right, bring up your mask. Click on the mask, hit Control-I to invert the mask. Now come over here to your paintbrush, and then we're simply going to paint the blur back in. So I come back in, and I'm only painting the donut to get the blur. So I'm just doing this rapidly for you, not taking the greatest care. So that brings the motion back into that top donut. Now this bottom one here, I want some motion to. So why don't we take this down to 48%. And then simply color this in. Again, I'm not taking the greatest of care. And it adds a bit of blurring and motion to it. Not as much as the top one. Now you can see how we've got that nice blending happening. Basically come over here on the right hand side, click on your layer mask, hit apply. Now on that layer, click that, and you can change your blend modes and everything else. So if I come down here, click to the right of it, I can now do the merge down again. And now I simply have the two layers. Now you can see the top layer has a skewer gone, has a motion blur, and I'm all set. I just need to simply come into here now, layer, and flatten. Boom. Now I simply need to color grade the image and do any other tweaking that I want. But we have it gone. So edit, undo the flatten, and again you can see the difference between the two. And I'll just zoom in a bit here so you can see the blur on that donut and the difference between it. So there's a before and after for you. And that's how easy it is to do a little bit of levitation food photography. Boy, those donuts were really yummy. And I was really happy with the way the image came out. So you can see it's not that hard to do a bit of food balance and levitation. Now let's take the food balancing a step up. Let's play with some blueberry muffins and create a piece of art. I wanted a bit more of a rustic look. That's why I'm going with the wood look to this. I'm using the same skewer I did before, and I'm simply sliding the muffins on. Now, you won't see it here, but I did use that wine stopper piece in the back just to help support that muffin, because otherwise it was getting a little tippy. You have to break the skewer off so you're not having the skewer exposed. You can, but then you have to edit it. You're better to get it right in camera. So adjust the skewer, it's quite easy, and then get however you want it to look. Now I changed the look in the final piece. I've got the muffin on top versus angling because I like that look better. Look at that beautiful snow of powdered sugar. How gorgeous does that look? And look at this final image. That is breathtaking. Well, there you have it. A couple of ways of taking our food to new heights and new levels. There's some tips and tricks in there for you. If you have any tips or tricks on food stacking, balancing, please leave it in the comments down below. I'd love to hear some of your tips and tricks because it does get a little tricky balancing food when you start getting those heights. But that's some of the ways that I've done it. You can see the images that we created with it. The levitation one looks really cool. A little bit of motion blur in that top donut. Looks fantastic. The muffin one, man, these are some good muffins. Well, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Hit that bell notification so you're aware when I post new videos like this. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. So, until the next time.